so I know you may not believe me yet, but I really think that the spark, rather than it necessarily being about lots and lots of attraction, instead, I think it's far more about how you feel and your own state of mind when you go on to that date. Because of that, I really want to start off this session by looking about how you can get into the right mindset around the flirtation and around experiencing and feeling the spark. Because what I really notice as a dating coach is so often it's not about the people we meet, it's about our own state of mind and how we feel in ourselves going on to that date. So during the first part of this section, I'm going to be looking at two issues that you may be coming across right now. The first issue is you're simply going on to dates and you're just not really feeling it. You're not feeling excited, and you really go on to dates longing to feel that spark with someone, but no one seems to be making an impression on you. So we're going to be looking in that case at how you can become more open to experiencing the spark. So rather than feeling this is something outside of your control, what can you do today to make yourself, put yourself in the best position that you would recognize the spark when it comes along? Well, I'm also going to be giving some tips out there to those of you who would love to create the spark and who go on to your dates thinking, right, I must remember to be a bit flirtatious, or I must remember to create that moment of touch, but that you find yourself continually holding yourself back, perhaps because you fear rejection, you don't want to make the other person feel uncomfortable, and you're conscious about putting one foot wrong and making the wrong move. I want to, in this case, give you some mindsets that are going to help you to feel more comfortable and relaxed around communicating what your intentions are. But let's get kick-started just by looking at a mindset that may hold you back from being open to experiencing the spark. So my first mindset shift that I'd like you to make is about realizing that by being open to experiencing the spark, or by making maybe a little move forwards, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're committed to anything. So sometimes what I notice through my coaching is that some people may hold themselves back from making that initial investment or that initial move purely because they're worried, if I make that move, is this suddenly going to mean something? Am I going to be flirting? Isn't flirting really awkward? Or what if someone starts to get the wrong impression and starts to expect more of me? Now, of course, I am not in the practice of encouraging anyone here to mislead anyone. In fact, it's so important that when we're dating, we try to clearly communicate what our intentions are. However, if you want to try and see if there is the opportunity for the spark on your date, that really is going to require at least one of you, if not both of you, making a small move forwards in order to test the water and see if you have the ability to have that level of connection. So what I want you to start to think is that really starting to create that first move, whether that is paying a compliment, suggesting meeting up on a date, maybe giving a little touch to someone's arm, that isn't about saying, you know, I want to be in a relationship with you tomorrow. That is instead about you saying, how can I really create the right environment here where if there is an opportunity for something, for some excitement, or for us to feel that next level of connection towards having a relationship, that I'm giving myself the best possible opportunity for that. So I want you to think that instead of feeling overcommitted when you're making a move or beginning to flirt with someone, the right mindset shift I'd like you to have around this is instead to think of it like that your intention is not to flirt or to be romantic or to suggest a relationship. Your intention really is around that you really want to express yourself clearly, that you want to have fun and enjoy getting to know this other person. And because of that, you're going to feel comfortable in yourself taking this first little initial move forwards just to see how the other person reacts. Now, this mindset shift is actually linked to the second mindset shift I want to look at today, which is directly for all those people out there who long to be able to put their intentions across clearly, to be a great flirt on their dates, to feel much more comfortable showing that they like someone, but who always leave their dates or thumping themselves on their head thinking, oh gosh, why was I not able to pay that compliment? Why did I feel uncomfortable to make that point of physical contact? So if you're constantly holding yourself back, the likelihood that this is going to be coming is from a space of fearing rejection. You may be worried that if you do take that step forward, that the other person isn't going to feel the same way as you. In fact, that by you taking that step forward, it may be even worse. They may actually feel uncomfortable. And because of that, you hold yourself back so much from making any moves that instead you're not really clearly communicating what your intentions are on the date. So if you're in this position and you're constantly holding yourself back, I want you to remember, and the mindset shift here is really about recognizing that when you are being more flirtatious with someone, or you are trying to show someone that you like them, this isn't binary. It's not, I show someone I like them, I don't. In fact, really, being more flirtatious and showing what our intentions are, there's a lot of, it's almost like a scale between 0 to 100. So obviously, you're not going to go in there, and if you went in there and immediately paid them a very strong physical compliment or said, how do you feel about getting married next week? Most people at that place are going to freak out a little bit. But instead, what I want you to recognize is when you begin to flirt, you're not going to go to that place. What you're going to do is take a very small, well-considered move forwards. And then because you're conscious and aware that you want the other person to feel comfortable, you are going to wait to see how they reciprocate before you continue to take those steps forward. So this is the mindset shift that you want to make. So instead of thinking, if I make a move, I'm going to run the risk here of being rejected, instead think, I'm only going to make a very little move. And when I do, I'm going to really listen and I'm going to see how that move is received before I continue. So that might be that if you pay a compliment, you wait to hear the person say thank you, or maybe return the compliment. If you suggest meeting up, you'd like the other person to reciprocate with saying, that sounds great, and setting a time to do that. If you touched a person on the shoulder, you'd want to see if they lean in and smile. Do they seem more or less comfortable? All of these things are really amazing feedback loops, which give us signposts within our interactions and within our dates to let us know, is it good for us to keep going, or do we need to hold back a little bit? So when you are thinking about making that move, instead of feeling like you're having to put your whole self on the line, instead remember it really is just a little small step forward, and then you're waiting to see that reciprocation, because all flirtation and all sparks are created like a dance. You take one step forwards, and then the other person also has to take the other step forwards. So my third mindset shift for us to look at this evening is all about how we actually co-create the spark. So often we might have this impression in our minds that the spark is all about us turning up on a date and just kind of lucking out by going on a date with someone who's really awesome, and that they bring all of that spark and all of that excitement to us. Instead, I actually think it's far more about two people coming together who are both in the right frame of mind to feel that spark and that connection, and who both take responsibility to both communicate their intentions and to show that they clearly reciprocate things. Because of this, you may want to think about how you can do a better job of not only communicating what your intentions are, but also showing reciprocation when you like somebody. It's really important for the other person to feel like if they do make that effort to put themselves out there, that it's being rewarded and that the other person is really engaged with them. Now, obviously you only do this if you are feeling it or are open to feeling it. So how can you get yourself in a better mindset to really experience that spark more often? So I think a lot of this comes down to our state of mind going into the date. If we have really high expectations where we're either looking out for a super spark, or if it's nothing, we're going to feel disappointed, that will tend to create a lot of pressure, which again may actually prevent us from recognizing the moments of compatibility that we do have with a person. So it's really good to keep your feet on the ground here and have a realistic outlook. So your outlook on a first date could be that, I want to have fun, I want to get to know this person, I'm excited to meet somebody new, but without any expectations beyond that. Also, when you turn up to that date, I really want to make sure that you're going onto that date in the right frame of mind. If you are rushing out the door you are running late, you're stressed because of a work deadline, that you're unlikely to be in the right frame of mind where you can really feel that excitement and that spark. Instead, I would highly recommend that you make sure that you have plenty of time to get to your dates, that your dates aren't rushed, so that you give yourself plenty of time as well to get to know and really connect with the person. And that also, dare I say it, you go out onto that date feeling really fabulous and really gorgeous and really attractive. So that could be giving yourself a bit of a motivational pep talk in the mirror. It could be doing the classic 20 press-ups before you leave the house. It might mean that you just invest some time in some self-care, doing your hair or your makeup or having a nice bath. Whatever it means to you, if you feel incredible going on to that date, you're going to also feel more able to experience the spark with someone. So this next mindset shift, we're going to go back again and look towards for those of you who are really trying to put the spark into your dates at the moment, but just aren't getting the feedback that you want right now. So maybe you're getting lots of messages saying you're lovely as a person, but the other person doesn't quite see you in that way. So a really good tip here is to remember that any flirtation has to be in context. Now, sometimes what can happen is if you feel a lot of pressure, like I must flirt, or I've got to show someone that I like them, or this can't be another date where I walk away and I haven't shown someone that I'm attracted to them. Sometimes under that pressure, instead of really being present and actually connecting to the person that you're relating to, what sometimes can happen instead is that we actually go too much in the other direction. And instead of really connecting with someone, we're stuck in our heads and we don't actually understand and recognize who they are as a person. We become too focused on our own performance. And because of that, we may flirt out of context. That means that you could be having a perfectly nice conversation about your summer holidays, we hope, next year, and suddenly someone tries to make that conversation a lot more flirtatious. That immediately isn't going to quite feel right to the other person because the flirtation is out of context, because it's unexpected. And what will happen is, if you come in quite strong with your level of flirtation and the other person isn't at that level to reciprocate it, the other person might experience that as feeling quite a lot of pressure. So instead, we really want to make sure that when you do have those moments of flirtation, that they have context. And the best context for flirtation is in fact emotional connection and intimacy. So your first milestone that you almost want to reach in your interactions, whether that's messaging somebody online or be on a date, is you really want to feel a personal connection. That should really be about, do I understand what this person is about? Am I getting a sense of their personality? Are we talking about more meaningful subjects about how they view the world, what their values are? If that's the case and you have that emotional connection in place and the other person is really enjoying talking to you and is really opening up, then this is a great signal that you're okay to move things to the next level. My final mindset shift that I'd like you to make is, if you are still concerned about taking things to the next level and about how being a bit more flirtatious or trying to create that spark will be received, I really want you to remember that everything that we do on our dates really is a filter. It's a filter that helps us to get closer to the person that we really should connect with. So if you go on a date and you turn up and you're really open-minded, you're very relaxed, you feel really great about yourself, you are okay to make that little bit of a first move in terms of paying a compliment or using one of the other techniques I'm going to be showing you in the next chapter to try to create that spark. If that isn't actually reciprocated, instead of feeling like this is your fault and you've done something wrong, what's actually better here is for you to remember and to think, okay, actually, I did my part here. I really felt on a good space on that day. I really communicated well. I gave myself the best opportunity to experience that spark, but the other person wasn't quite able to match up with that. And that's okay, because you'll remember you're not here to impress everybody. But what is important is that you do, on those dates, give yourself the opportunity to feel the spark, because even if you don't feel it with this person, by taking these actions, it's actually going to move you closer to feeling the spark with someone very soon. Okay, so let's take a quick recap of those points from chapter 1. Okay, so I want to remember that you need to feel comfortable within flirtation within yourself to help build the spark on the date. You can only continue to build the spark if the other person participates. So it's actually not all about you. Instead, it's actually a lot of the time about how somebody relates. And remember also to change your intention. Instead of feeling tons of pressure that you must be flirtatious or you must show someone you like them, remember at this stage, really, it is about you expressing yourself clearly. It's about you having an enjoyable experience, and it's about you listening and connecting to the other person. Now, I have got some very specific skills that I'm going to be teaching you around how you can go about creating more of the spark on your dates. But before we get into that, I want to take a very quick look at some questions that people have sent in before, and there's some really good ones in here. So question 1 says, as a woman in their early 40s, looking to settle down and find their life partner, never married, no kids, any advice on how to approach dating and not put pressure on the early stages due to time and biological clock? Now, I have to say time is probably one of the biggest factors that will inadvertently create pressure on our dates. So whether that's feeling the pressure of time is running out, and because of this, you know what, I better really analyze this date and make sure it's going in the direction I want it to. So when we feel that burden and pressure of time, often it leads to us overanalyzing, purely because we want to come to a conclusion around what this date means and is it going in the direction we want as quickly as possible. Instead, though, this kind of puts the cart before the horse, because instead of focusing on how can I get to commitment as soon as possible, you should think, you know, I really want to commit to someone I feel an amazing connection with. So because of that, I would ask you to shift your point of focus and instead think, how can I really try to connect with the people I meet on my dates? And if I do experience that connection, then really feeling that commitment should be a consequence of that. So remember, don't let time be a bully here. It's actually really important that you keep reminding yourself that there are tons of amazing people for you to meet. You still have a lot of opportunity, a lot of choice out there, and it's actually very important before you make commitment for you to choose to have that commitment with someone who you really connect with. So go on to your dates, focused on connection, and then the commitment will follow. Okay, so the second question here is how to make your conversation flow to a point that both of you would like to exchange numbers. So this is a bit of a trick question, because it's actually not all on you whether your conversation flows or not, because there's always two people in a conversation. So what you want to remember is, again, you want to be responsible for your 50% of the interaction. That means, just like I mentioned earlier, that you are comfortable sharing information about yourself. You maybe don't default to talking about the weather, and also that you really listen to the other person. To build a connection, it's often as simple as really thinking, what is this person showing me about who they are through how they're communicating with me right now? Because of that, you can really listen to another person and show you've listened to them through how you answer in a conversation. That's going to be really important, because nobody wants to feel like you're just having a conversation with them because you're rushing to get towards the point where it's okay to ask for their phone number. Instead, what they want to feel, or what should be the truth, is that because you've connected and because you've discovered that you have some things in common, maybe because you've had a bit of a laugh and a giggle, because of that, it's natural that you should then exchange phone numbers. So remember, it's only 50% your responsibility. You do need the other person to participate as well, and that you can only do your best shot, which is to do with listening and sharing information about yourself. So the final question of this section, it's how to keep the conversation going on text/messages, especially when meeting up won't happen for a while. I feel I friend zone myself by being friendly and not flirty enough. So for those of you who don't know what the friend zone is, that's dating shorthand for saying you end up always being someone's friend, but people don't tend to react to you in a way that shows that they're romantically interested in you. And as I said, the next session, we're going to look at a lot of techniques for how you can create a bit more of that spark. However, when we become very worried about how do I keep the conversation going, or how do I keep this person interested in me, a lot of that is coming from a space of scarcity, where you feel like unless you're checking in on that person every day, and unless you're sort of constantly entertaining them, that they're going to lose interest and meet someone better than you. And at this point, it's really, really worth you remembering again that there's a two-way responsibility here for creating and also maintaining that connection. Because of that, rather than all the pressure being on you, it also relies on the other person being in the right frame of mind where they're also going to participate and they're also going to really continue to feel that connection with you. Because of this, what I think is really important is for you to, instead of thinking about checking in on someone every day with that little, hey, how's it going kind of message, instead I would focus on intermittent yet impactful communication. This means I think it's often better having high quality communication, whether that's a video call or a voice message or sharing some pictures a few times a week rather than being in contact every single day. So focus on high quality communication, which means when the other person sees your name flashing up on the screen, they always feel a smile of excitement that it's you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our second chapter, which is all about some techniques here for how you can start to create more of the spark on your dates.